Welcome to A Place for Film, the IU Cinema podcast. On this week's episode, we're discussing Ava DuVernay. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Andy Hunsucker.
And I'm Jason Thompson.
And on this week's episode, we've got our old pal Nzingha Kendall here to talk about Ava DuVernay, who's coming to the cinema here in a couple weeks. Thank you for joining us, Nzingha.
Thanks for having me back.
And on the end there, Sarah Doyle, our production assistant, who's we're going to try to make space for you over there from now on.
We've got the table set up differently, the actual space.
Yeah. I think we would have done it previously, but we suddenly, like 2 episodes in a row, had 3 guests, which we've never, ever done before in the entire history of the podcast. 2 weeks in a row had 3 guests.
Nice.
So expect to see more of Sarah on the show there. All right. Well, let's talk about Ava DuVernay. And to talk about that with us is Nzingha Kendall from the Black Film Center Archive, one of the sponsors of this series. And Ava DuVernay is an independent filmmaker, and she won the Best Director Award at Sundance last year. And so I'm reading here she also has a film distribution venture, and that's something I guess the cinema's helping her to promote. I mean, what can you tell me about that?
Well, the film distribution venture, it's really neat. So Ava DuVernay, she's got this kind of entrepreneurial spirit to her. She's from the LA area, and so while she's been around film, she wasn't really in it. Her undergraduate, she went to UCLA, so she studied African American studies and English. And for a while, she dabbled in music. So this filmmaking thing is kind of I don't know what number career, but maybe let's say a third.
Yeah.
But for a while, she was an MC, right? And one of the documentaries that we're going to be showing, or that, well, by this time, let's see, will we be showing that one? Yes,
so, yeah.
at the IU Cinema. This is the Life. That'll be showing on Sunday the 15th. She has a small role in it, but she was an MC. She also has a publicity company out in LA that works to promote Hollywood films, studio films in African American communities. So that's kind of her background, and it was a publicity firm called, I think, Ava DuVernay Productions. I'm getting it wrong, but she's got that as a background, and the filmmaking thing was something that she came to a little bit later, maybe a few years ago. So she got her start with documentary, and then her first fiction feature, narrative feature, premiered at Sundance. Actually, I Will Follow in 2011. And she followed up the next year with Middle of Nowhere, for which she received the Sundance Directing Award. So, I mean, in 2 years, independent filmmaker, but nevertheless pretty well connected, was able to make a huge splash. And part of it has to do with this business venture, Affirm. So the series itself is called A Call to Action, Ava DuVernay and Affirm. And what we're doing with the series is to do a retrospective of Ava DuVernay's documentary and narrative work, but also to showcase her distribution company, Affirm. And what they basically try to do is to get really neat kind of independent Black films into theaters. So using a kind of platform of African American film festivals, because Affirm stands for the African American Film Festival Releasing Movement. So using the kind of networks that these Black film festivals have, she has kind of leveraged that into getting cinemas like AMC, right, to show her roster of films.
Okay.
So that's a kind of convoluted description. But so what we're trying to do is, let people know that she's really dynamic. She's part of this new Black renaissance in filmmaking, and get her to IU so that folks can see what she's been up to.
Absolutely. So So the first set of films here. So she's going to be here on the 20th, actually, and she's going to have a lecture and a couple of films on that day. But let's just talk about each one of these individual films and sort of see where the conversation goes.
Okay.
But the first film we're showing here on Sunday, September 15th, and I didn't mention this one earlier, so that's this weekend, is Better Must Come. And that's at 3 p.m., and it's action, adventure, crime, and drama, which is always a great combination. So I don't know how much – have you seen all these films? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I've seen a few of them,
okay,
but I haven't seen Better Must Come. But Better Must Come is actually part of a different arm of a firm called Array. And it's actually a Jamaican film by an up-and-coming Jamaican filmmaker named Storm Salter. And this film has done the kind of Caribbean and Pan-African Film Festival circuit, let's say. And it's a period piece. It takes place in the 70s when there's all this kind of political unrest going on in Jamaica. You have Michael Manley, who's the kind of socialist-ish president who is political rival is Edward Seaga, and some say is a U.S. puppet in a certain sense, and then how that trickles down to a neighborhood in Kingston. And so in there you've got rival gangs, you've got a love story, so that's where the action, adventure, love, all that goes on with the backdrop of politics.
I was going to say, when you said it in the 70s like that, you automatically have interest in, I mean, the politics can just be a back seat for the entire film.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. And this film totally captivated audiences at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, which is the premier Caribbean film festival. It also won the Best Picture at Barbados and did really well in its theatrical release in Jamaica. So it's pretty neat to have a Caribbean film at the IU Cinema, since it's not, something that gets showcased very often.
Well, and that's the thing about film, especially film now. It's like people say, "Oh, independent film is dead." Well, but it isn't.
No.
It's
You're
not.
not looking hard enough.
It's it's out there, and everyone's making movies. Everyone is making movies everywhere, and just because it's only in this regional place doesn't mean there aren't great films. I mean, every year, Jason, you and I go to 3 or 4 or 5 film festivals and see all sorts of stuff that
and they tend to always sort of extract it from a very specific random area. It's like, we're going to do a film from this area that you've never heard of before, but now everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's right. But I think that's probably a part of what her mission is, right? Just to sort of champion certain films from certain areas. I mean, because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a carefully curated selection of what she and her team feel are the most compelling independent Black films. So Better Must Come is on Sunday the 15th at 3, and then after that is This Is the Life at 6:30, which will also show at the cinema, and that's it's a documentary about this kind of alternate to the gangster rap scene in the 90s in LA.
Okay.
And so this is the film I was talking about earlier, where Ava DuVernay is an MC who's part of this good life movement, right? Okay. And this is a film that I guess it was a film that she distributed herself, and she used the experiences from distributing this film and kind of shopping it around, getting it to show on Showtime, then doing the DVD distribution on her own. And that kind of gave her the kernels of what it took to launch the theatrical distribution venture. So,
So this sounds like a music documentary. Is that basically what it is?
It is. Yes,
okay.
it is.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Then it feels like if we had been at South by Southwest at 2008, we would have seen it there, because that was like 90% music documentaries. Right. It's like every other film. It was like you couldn't get away from the music documentaries. But yeah, that one sounds really interesting. I'm excited about that one. The next one here is on Thursday, September 19th at 7 p.m. From 2013, Venus Versus. And I haven't seen this film, but it's about Venus Williams. And was this one shown on ESPN?
It is. It's part of ESPN's. They have a series that focuses on men, and then they have something called 9 for 9, which focuses on like women trailblazers in sports. And Venus Versus premiered, I guess, at the LA Film Festival this year. Got really great reviews. It's shown on ESPN, and it details basically the story of Venus Williams' fight for parity in tennis and for pay parity. So, she was like, why are the guys getting paid more money?
Right.
We still work just as hard. And she won that fight, and she won Wimbledon that year.
Yeah.
So,
what is interesting too, because a lot of if you pay enough attention to ESPN, at times they'll actually try to talk about tennis and sort of talk to people about tennis at longer than just sort of the who won this, who won that. Right. And a lot of the guy tennis players are like, I don't want to ever play any of these women because they'll probably beat us,
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting, and this film probably maybe stirred up a little bit of that because, I think there are a lot of very talented female tennis players. I mean, back in the day, they tried to set up guys and girls on the tennis courts all the time, and that was a huge deal, and I don't think we've seen that in a long time, have we? Really?
I think mixed doubles.
Yeah, they do some mixed doubles tournaments, but not like
the match.
Not like every not like the
versus
not like the Royal Rumble of tennis where they just throw everyone into one tournament and see who wins.
Yeah,
which would be interesting.
Yeah,
I think,
that would be.
Yeah.
But Ava DuVernay is scheduled to be present at that screening.
Okay.
So she should be here on Thursday. And then actually the day before at the Black Film Center Archive, we are showing Big Words, which is it's a new film on her roster. It came out this year. It was at Slam Dance. And it is, let me look through my notes. It's directed by Neil Drumming, and it's kind of like right before Obama gets elected, what happens to this group of friends in Brooklyn. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Sure. But we're showing that at the Black Film Center Archive on the 18th of September at 7 p.m. So,
and the Black Film Center Archive is
ground floor, Wells Library, next to Media Reserves, and it's free. So stop by if you can.
Cool. And then the 20th here, Friday, September 20th, is sort of the big day.
Yes.
So Ava DuVernay lecture at 3 o'clock. And do you know did she have a theme? Does she have a topic?
Well, she's going to talk about this kind of social entrepreneurship. And we've got a really neat professor from the Kelly School who's going to come and talk to be in conversation with Ms. DuVernay. The professor is Toya Miller, and she actually specializes in social entrepreneurship at the Kelly School. So I think it'll be a really interesting conversation because it's not necessarily going to focus on the filmmaking as art, right? So much as how is it that this business works and what is the kind of social message that goes along with the business venture.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that aspect that a filmmaker can come here and be like, not talking about my movies. I'm going to talk.
Not that she's not going to talk about filmmaking, right?
I'm sure she'll mention them, but it's like let's have a serious business discussion, everyone.
Yeah.
Let's talk about funding.
And she clearly has a specific goal too, which I think is interesting to sort of give people ideas for, like, if you have an idea, here's how you can tackle it.
Yeah, and how to be realistic,
right.
About like your dream. Because that's the thing, like so many filmmakers are like, I just need to get my movie made, but then like who's going to watch your movie?
Right.
What's your plan to get that movie seen?
Yeah.
And it kind of sounds like she went out and did it to figure out her plan, whereas she didn't go off anybody else's theory. That's respectful.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people told her, no, you can never do this. There are not black people who want to see independent movies. White people don't want to see independent movies made by black people. So there's this whole myth that she's trying to...
Well, and she's not doing it for herself either. It seems like she's doing it for other films as well. Like, obviously, because I think... just that one film isn't hers, right? Better Must Come. In her
Better
series.
Must Come is not hers, and Big Words is not hers.
But everything else is basically hers.
Yes.
Okay.
But she's Affirm has also put out in theaters a film by Ulrich Braun called Kenya Rwanda that showed at Sundance.
I love Kenya Rwanda.
So that was in a firm theatrical distribution.
Yes, I got to talk to the director of that at Ebert Fest.
He's he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Also Jamaican. I don't know if you knew that.
Is he Jamaican? I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
A firm put out Kenya Rwanda. Restless City, which was that beautifully shot Andrew Dosunmu, I think that's how you say his name, film. And he just came out with his second film, Mother of George, that's being distributed by Oscilloscope, but telling these stories of African immigrants in New York, right? So she's telling these Black stories, but it's not your typical,
right.
what you would think of with Denzel Washington or
exactly.
Tyler Perry.
There's so many movies romanticizing different immigrant stories to America, Italian immigrants, Irish immigrants, and all that stuff. But I don't know if I've seen the film, romanticizing the Black immigrant experience.
Yeah, there are very few. There was that film, The Visitor, a few years ago with Denai Guerrera and totally blanking on Richard Jenkins.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the person who made that film is a guy who made The Station Agent. I'm totally blanking on his name.
I don't know.
Yeah. But so I mean, a firm puts out movies that are not only Ava DuVernay's, but other folks as well. So
but I'm sure it helps when she puts one of hers out at this point because she's pretty popular.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But so there's the Jorgensen on Friday afternoon, but then in the evening there are two more films that she's supposed to be present at.
Yes.
As well. She's shooting a film right now. Exactly. Yeah. So things are...
I'm sure filmmakers love coming to the IU Cinema, but they like getting paid for their work and completing their work even more.
Yes.
So it's very nice of her to break in the middle of shooting to come do this, but no guarantees because production schedules do not wait for anyone.
Yes.
Regardless, her films will show.
Yes, definitely.
But let's talk about these films real quick. 6:30 p.m. on Friday, September 20th, Middle of Nowhere. And this is the film you said won the Best Director award at Sundance.
And it also won the John Cassavetes Award at Independent Spirits. Nice. And then the lead actress, Emayatsi Corinaldi, won Best Actress, nominated. So, I mean, it's a really powerful film about the effect of the prison industrial complex, actually, in not only the Black community, but in the United States. And going back to this idea of, her work having to do with, kind of political activism, this film was used as part of a campaign to reduce the cost of phone calls that prisoners have to pay, that folks who are incarcerated have to pay huge amounts of money to make collect calls. So I guess maybe not the folks who are incarcerated, but the people, their families basically, are paying
to be able to speak to them.
Yeah. And so there was a campaign against this, and they lobbied to the FCC, and the FCC actually screened Middle of Nowhere, and these exorbitant phone charges have been reduced. So,
nice.
So yeah, I mean, Middle of Nowhere, it's a character study, and it centers on this woman who is dealing with her partner being in jail, and how she kind of will negotiate this situation, whether she should put her life on hold or just dedicate all her time to getting her man basically out of the situation, and when is enough enough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, so the final film here is a film called I Will Follow at 9:30 p.m. on Friday, September 20th. So what is this one about?
This is, as I mentioned before, Ava DuVernay's first narrative feature, and it's a really beautiful kind of contemplative film about loss. And it's a day in the life of a woman who's a successful makeup artist in LA, and kind of the people who pass through her life as she's packing up her her aunt's house, and her aunt has passed away. So it's a really just I don't want to make it seem like it's slow, but it is contemplative, and it's shot in LA, so the light is just gorgeous. You were talking about this Italian light. It's the same thing with this LA, Southern California light. It's just beautiful in the film, and there's a reference, I Will Follow, to the U2 song, I Will Follow, in the film. So, yeah, that's the rundown of the Ava DuVernay series at the IU Cinema.
Yeah.
So, and the BFCA.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about her work or anything else you want to say?
I would say if you've seen her films, or even if you haven't seen her films, especially if you haven't, make a point to come out and see her, see one of the films at least. And if you can make it out to see her, she's I haven't seen her speak before, but I've seen some recordings. And she's really dynamic and energetic and has just really interesting things to say, and her approach is admirable. So take advantage.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll get out of here. And Nzingha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great having you back.
It's a pleasure, yeah.
We'll try to have you back on for something we know a little bit more about, so we can converse a little bit more. We were talking about only stuff that I'm unfamiliar with. You come on about. But anyways, Sarah, thanks for sitting in.
Thank you.
We'll get out of here. So thank you guys for listening. My name is Andy.
And I'm Jason.
This has been, and always will be, A Place for Film. A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.